Well, as to promise, I'm going to give you a little bit of a walkabout in the front yard since I neglected to do that yesterday. And starting out from a different vantage point, I am going to be coming down Lemon Lane. And as you can see, all of the Abelia and the lemon lime nandina is pushing out gorgeous, new, luminescent growth. And even the encore azaleas are starting to perk up. They took a hit during that last cold spell, but they're all looking beautiful. And then a vision that I had earlier is being realized, and that is these are hyacinth bulbs that I did last year, what I'm doing this year, and that is I enjoyed them inside. And then when they were past their prime, I brought them out and planted them in the garden. And I really love the effect with the yellow. And I think I've got enough latitude in the front of the border on Lemon Lane, at least during early spring, late winter, early spring, that I can continue with that the infusion of blue bulbs from the Muscari and the Hyacinths all along in here. There's a big space right there that I've got my eye on. And then along both sides, you can see where some are kind of hidden underneath the canopy of the Abelia. You can see them under there. And I'm hoping that some of these will go to seed. They'll continue to spread. And then up and down both sides of Lemon Lane, there will be this little ribbon of blue. And I think I'll like that very much. And I also like the fact that I get double duty out of these bulbs and I can enjoy them indoors before I put them out in the garden. All of this Muscari, and as I've showed you before, the little daffodils, the tete-a-tete daffodils, all of those are from starts that I had last year that I enjoyed indoors first and have now planted them out. In fact, in anticipation of Easter and my objective along Lemon Lane, I bought another whole flat of them already forced. I got these at Walmart, I think, and they were like under $2 per 4-inch pot, which is a great deal to me. Now, there's still some follow-up work that I'll be doing this week. As you can see, it's kind of a gray, cloudy day. And not only have lots of things gone to seed, for example, along this brick border here, see right there? There's a little something that went to seed, some chartreuse on the loose nepeta. But then I also have along both sides all sorts of clover that's getting started. And so I will just go put the tea kettle on, because I think weeds in between these bricks, they're just difficult to really eradicate and get the root ball. So it's much easier for me to just pour some boiling water on them, and that in short order takes care of them. Now, other things that are growing up in between the brick and the walkway, like the golden feverfew and things, some of those I will just selectively allow to grow. And boy, now all of the pansies and violas in that blue and white or purple and white color, this is their time to shine, and boy, are they shining. And repeating the color of the hyacinths and the Muscari down Lemon Lane, and this is what Lemon Lane looks like from this direction. One of my favorite spots in the garden, I have to admit, because I love this color palette. And in addition to the violas and the pansies, there continues to be more yellow pumped out from the tete-a-tete daffodils, and some of the things that I seeded in the Easter basket right there. I seeded some little lettuce seeds and some golden feverfew, and it's just gonna they're just gonna thug it out. I haven't seen any evidence yet of the snap peas that I planted in here, but they might be hiding below some foliage, and I'll check that out shortly. But the pots of daffodils, those seem to be very happy. I regret now not placing this tutor inside this pot before I composed it, because now it's so thick. It's really hard for me to nestle it in there without crushing a bunch of plants. But I'll try to figure out something. And look at all the new growth on these Green Mountain Boxwood topiary. Makes me very, very happy, as does this new addition to my stepscape, my container garden front stepscape, and that is this golden thread spirea. I told you when John had some that I needed some myself, and I saw it at TLC yesterday. So that also makes me happy, as do all of the tips of these tulip bulbs in the pots that I overwintered. Boy, pretty soon I need to get out here. I still haven't done it yet, but I'm going to get out my top buxus, and I will show you all, once the weather dries up just a little bit, how I feed and restore and protect all of my boxwood. This boxwood here was a very, very old specimen from my other house. And I dug it up out of the ground because it had splayed. And if you have any kind of boxwood that has splayed and separated in the middle because of heavy ice or snow, this is an option for you. And actually, it's something that we did yesterday on a number of different size boxwood at my friend John's. So you're going to want to really tune in this weekend as I demonstrate how we did it. But this has all sorts of new growth on it. And I like the way it kind of, I don't know, it has more of a bonsai effect, and then I'll be able to underplant it. And in the window box, these guys are starting to catch up too. These are Skylight, better boxwood. They make the best cones, I think. I'll be discussing more about that later. The Sunshine Ligustrum, unbelievably, that is planted in the window box, and I think it looks good. But behind here, oh my goodness, my first, you're experiencing it right along with me. My very first, very short, typically the ones that bloom first bloom short in my garden anyway. The first tulip of the season, and that is part of the French Rose blend. And then there's some of that chartreuse on the loose Nepeta that sent out a little baby along the walkway. Here are the pots, tiny little pots of Muscari in the planters from my friend Carlina Elizabeth. There's another one over there. And when it is time, those will go in the ground too. Well, it's time to do some training on these roses. This is a gorgeous Eden rose. You can see it's starting to scale above that window. I need to train this long branch. And to the extent I can make it, the branches go horizontal, the more bloom I will get from all of the different branching that comes up from those canes, because each one of those individual branches that the original cane is shooting up, those will bloom. So I am breaking apical dominance. Instead of growing up, we're going to get these to grow laterally and give me more bloom. So it's pretty full already. And I'm hoping eventually to train it with some guide wires around the corner. And I think that'll be really magnificent and make this corner very charming. In my mind's eye, anyway. I've been extremely pleased on a number of occasions that we added this railing over here on this side. These steps are steeper than the ones that go up to the front. And because of that, it's always helpful to have a railing. And then you kind of can't see it, but inside, growing up through this emerald green arborvitae, is some of the clematis, the taiga clematis. And it is putting out new growth. I need to do a little bit of pruning on it, and I need to do some tip pruning on the arborvitae. And I started this, and I didn't finish deadheading all of these moondance hydrangeas, but I will do that shortly. And as I was examining this bed, I found some treasures. So underneath the canopy, I don't know if you can see it, but back in there, I found a couple of pieces of large gray slate flagstone, which I think is no longer necessary there. This stuff has matured so quickly, and I'll be able to use those as stepping stones in the front, and they will be larger than the ones I currently have. And then these delicious autumn, these encore azaleas in white, autumn ivory, they are putting on some buds, so I'm going to get some white bloom out of them. Look how tall they're getting. And that thrills me no end. I was getting a little bit concerned about this Terra hydrangea over here. It seems to, it comes out more slowly than some of my other hydrangeas. These are starting to put out buds. You can see right there. See that little green darling right there. But this one is this is a Terra hydrangea, and it's just it's a little more slow, but I scratched the trunk and it is green. And in its own time, of its own accord, it will bloom. And then over here, the hellebores are finally starting to put on some maturity. These are in bloom. And I think in the foreground is a Canterbury bell. And I've clipped back lots of the Vinca minor to thicken it up. And then over here, there's more hellebore. And hopefully this will really begin to spread. And before too long, the ajuga will join the party, blooming in blue. So let's do an about face and walk this way, which is south, stopping to admire that big clump of columbine right there. And I also spy a little tiny blue point juniper there that went to seed. We may have to steal from Peter to pay Paul, shop our garden, and pot that up someplace else. It's, I would say, I'm gonna guess, the highs are in the upper 60s today. It's very humid. We've gotten some rain, not nearly as much as we need, because this has been more of a light drizzle, not so much penetrating rainfall, and we really need that. There, oh boy, I haven't seen these yet. These are those little orchids that are coming up in there, those spire tips, intermingled with some Razzo's penstemon, and there's some sedum autumn joy coming up, a couple of foxglove. And then I've told you many times in the past, if you are having trouble getting some seeds to germinate, then put some gravel on top of the soil and toss the seed into the gravel, because the ambient warmth off of the gravel and the moisture that the gravel holds in makes things go to seed really well. And this has gone to seed almost too rambunctiously, and I think this is more of that penstemon. Some of it I will allow to say, some of it I will say goodbye to. And look at all the larkspur underneath there. It'll be blooming up around our rear ends as we sit in those chairs. Lots of Minoan lace. I see some tall phlox that I'll probably shorten. I need to feed all of my hollies, and we'll get around to that. And then I'm also kind of excited. I'm always excited every year for the new things. So as much as I love this star magnolia, I've had it for a couple of years. So now I am anxious to see what a couple of the mock oranges that I got from White Flower Farm. I've misplaced it now. Oh, there it is, over there, next to that Empress Azalea. I am curious to see what it's going to do. I see it starting to bud out. May or may not bloom this year. Well, okay, there's another tulip that I see getting ready to bloom. Again, these first ones will bloom short. Well, I guess they've got a ways to go still. They've got some more height to put on. I'm seeing all sorts of seedlings in this bed, things that were really slow to germinate because we haven't had any rain. And even though I'd been watering them, it seems to me that some seeds, they just really require rainfall, not your irrigation system, to germinate. So some little seedlings, I mean, I've got poppies. It may be too late for the poppies to do anything. It might get too hot too fast. But I've got some little poppy seedlings in here. There's another Minoan lace, some larkspur, a foxglove, and then happily I've seen all sorts of dill in here also. So a surprise to me, I think I showed you this surprise maybe a couple of weeks ago. So the It's a Breeze Ivory Rose I took out because it had rose rosette, but it threw out a cane that rooted into the ground, and when I removed it, it made another plant. Well, likewise, I noticed over in here another area where it's done that, and there's another tiny rose in there. So I think I might just let those grow up and get big and see if they are sick or they're not sick. So consequently, you can see the impression there where I took out that previous rose. I'm probably not going to put anything in there that's very large to allow space for these roses to continue to grow. So I'm thinking what I might do is transplant some of this yellow leucanthemum in there, and this area will be, after the tulips bloom, it'll be more perennials. Because you not only have to think about now, you have to think about in the future. And in the future, I need to finish deadheading all of these white wedding hydrangeas. Over here, I made a start, but then got interrupted and didn't finish. And boy, all these hollies not only need to be fed, but they need to be tip pruned. And I will do that in short order. Let's stop to look at the beautiful pink buds coming out on the redbud tree. And by the way, did you know that those flowers are edible? Fun fact. Fun fact. Okay, there's a boxwood. This is one of the only boxwood in my garden that seems to be struggling and not very happy. I think it's got too much competition. And when the hydrangeas are in full bloom, it's not getting enough light. So I'll look into that. Hands and knees kind of gardening, where you're just looking at everything up close and personal, and then from a distance to make sure that you're getting the effect that you want. And as things continue to grow and mature, I can envision what it's all going to look like. I am more than ready. There's this other It's a Breeze ivory. I mean, look at how huge it is. But I am more than ready for my Eugenia topiaries to come home because I really need that height and their statuesque presence in the garden. And there's that sun trying to peek out. And I'm ready for some of this salvia to bloom because it is just, will then be in perfect harmony with all of the blue and white pansies. And now let's get a look from a distance and how it appears if you're walking along the sidewalk. Now, as soon as the grass dries out, I will mow it. That will thicken it up some, remove some of the remaining leaves. And I would say in about 3 days, I'm going to have a really pretty consistent, homogeneous green expanse of grass. It tends to grow in clumps sometimes, but it's starting to fill in. And then I will groom it, and I think it will then be the perfect showcase or perfect canvas for the rest of the garden. So this is what you would see if you were strolling by the cottage right now, and people are starting to come by. And I loved all of the recommendations that she made for what to name the area by the alley. So many great names. A lot of them had daffodils. Speaking of daffodils, look at all these sweet ones growing on autumn's edge. And a lot of you had daffodil in the moniker. The one of them really stuck with me though, because I thought it was so original, was somebody, excuse the trucks, somebody said to call it Walker's Ridge. And the reason I like that is because if you are walking from north going south, it's what you first encounter. And part of my motivation in putting that bed in was for the walkers and the school kids who would be walking up and down this east side, the border of this wall, and then the area in between the fence and that flower bed. So all of the names were good. Walker's Ridge is sticking with me because it tends to be more for season. The daffodils is kind of more of a spring thing. And this will definitely have 4-season appeal. In my mind anyway. And then we're going to close on the snowball viburnum, which I am thrilled to report. Look at all of those buds. So this is going to be spectacular this year in contrast to last year when it was such a disappointment. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this little stroll. I'm trying to keep you up to date on what's going on because things are changing so rapidly, and spring is very fleeting. So I want to make sure to not only enjoy it myself, but share it with you. So if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give us a follow, and more importantly, share it with others who might want to enjoy spring right along with the rest of us.